the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Buckeyes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. It is Friday, May 21st in the year 2021. And on this Feel Good Friday, we have some news. A couple big things that came out of the Ohio State basketball and football programs that'll definitely help you feel good. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07. You can also follow the podcast on Twitter as well at Locked On Buckeyes. Lineup for today. In segment one, we talk about the young man from Seton Hall that filled the final vacant spot on the Ohio State basketball coaching staff. Segment two, is there anything left on Chris Holtman's to-do list this offseason? And then segment three, the game against Oregon that was canceled last year got rescheduled. But before we get to all that, I want to take some time to remind you to make sure you check out the Locked On Big Ten podcast, because there's simply no better place to get all the news on the Big Ten Conference than with Big Ten Ben Stevens and the Locked On Big Ten podcast. Follow the Locked On Big Ten podcast on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcast. And every Monday, Ben and myself are there to recap the weekend in the Big Ten Conference. This offseason, there are things that Chris Holtman expected to happen. He could have anticipated these things possibly happening, and there are things that just come up and it's got to roll with the punches. Dwayne Washington Jr., E.J. Liddell, some people says that was a foregone conclusion that those two individuals were automatically going to put their name in the draft to see or to hear what people were saying. Is it wise for them to go to the league, or is it wise for them to stay in college basketball? There's also a young man by the name of Terry Johnson who was on the Ohio State basketball coaching staff, had been with Chris Holtman for, I believe, at least 7 or 8 years, had been an assistant basketball coach and a coach for quite a long time. He left Columbus to go to West Lafayette to be under Matt Painter's coaching staff at Purdue University. That left a hole on the coaching staff. That added one more thing, at least one more thing, on Chris Holtman's to-do list this off-season. And that vacancy has been filled. Mr. Tony Skinn, he is born in Nigeria. He is coming from Seton Hall, where he was an assistant coach at Seton Hall from 2018 until 2021, just last season. He is going to be the newest assistant or newest addition to the Ohio State basketball coaching staff. His role at this time is unknown, but his role is going to be a vital one to this team being successful. Tony Skinn played JUCO basketball, then he transferred to George Mason, where he averaged 11.6 points a game, 2.8 rebounds a game, and 2.1 assists a game. And I believe that George Mason team had a deep run in the NC2A tournament as well. He also played 7 years overseas in countries such as Croatia, France, Italy, Germany, Israel, and Ukraine. He was a big recruiter while at Seton Hall, recruiting guys such as Dominguez Stevens, not of any relation. His last name is spelled with a V. Mine is spelled with a PH. And then Jahari Long, and then incoming freshman at Seton Hall, Ryan Conway. He does have something that I don't believe any member of the coaching staff has on their resume or has any connections there. That is the DMV area, the Delaware, Maryland, Virginia area over there near DC. I do believe Mr. Skinn does have that area, and he could bolster or boost the recruiting. That'd be amazing. You get a guy to come in on the coaching staff. He has experience coaching. He has experience playing both in the NC2A level, going on a deep tourney run, also overseas, coming from a program in Seton Hall from the Big East where you play high caliber competitive basketball all the time. And then now he's also able to help you boost recruiting and help you get recruited in an area that I don't believe you have an individual on the staff that has a footprint or a pipeline to that area. Before coaching at Seton Hall, Mr. Tony Skinn also coached at Louisiana Tech from 2015 until 2018. This is huge. This is big. This is a perfect time for this to happen because you want to have your coaching staff fulfilled. You want to have every single role solidified in concrete, and it will help players such as Dwayne Washington Jr. or E.J. Liddell when making their decision. Once they hear what the scouts are saying about them in the NBA and their future in the NBA right now, they can look back at Ohio State and say, well, I got Chris Holtman. I understand there's this new guy here that just came from Seton Hall, but I believe in Holtman. I believe what he's doing, and I believe that he can help us get in the right direction, be put in the right place to be successful, and him bringing this guy in after Terry Johnson is leaving. This is a great move for Ohio State. This is a great move for me to come back to Ohio State. Or honestly, if they end up staying in the NBA draft process, going through the draft and then getting drafted or potentially getting drafted, so be it. I'm excited. I'm happy for Mr. Skinn to be in Columbus to see exactly what is going to happen with him and on the coaching staff. These times are busy. These times are exciting. And my plan for the day was to talk all about the basketball. We're not doing that because I can't forget that this basketball team is good, can be even better than they were last year. And these pieces that are to the puzzle that are getting put together right now, those are going to help a whole lot of people know what the expectations for the Ohio State basketball team can be, if they're confirmed by what people have seen previously, or they need to be altered or tweaked because there have been additions and subtractions from the team, just like basically almost, I can't say every, but almost every team in college basketball via coaches leaving or via the transfer portal. It seems like everybody and their mama is hopping in that thing because, it's wise for me to go in the portal just to see what can happen. One quick reminder, just because someone goes into the portal does not mean they're not going to come back to that school. Just like Liddell in Washington, they're trying to see what else is out there. Let's step away very quickly. When we come back, we'll talk about if there's anything left for Chris Holtman to do this off season. My words are all over the place today, guys. But first, check this out. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your sports action. Baseball season is in full swing, and you can track all the action at BetOnline. Get all the latest news, odds, and info for all your sporting needs, including MLB, NBA, NHL, and all your UFC/MMA action. Before the next pitch, head over to BetOnline on your laptop or mobile device and check out all the great sporting news, sign-up bonuses, and contest information. Don't sit on the sidelines anymore, as this is your chance to get into the game as teams prep for their runs to the playoffs. Head to betonline.ag on your laptop or mobile device. And when you do, make sure you use promo code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, your online sports book experts. I have no idea what is going on today. My words are all over the place. The words that normally flow out smoothly and swiftly. Today, they're getting blocked from one part of the brain coming out of my mouth. And I don't know. Hopefully, things get a whole lot better as we move forward with this show. You know what will make things a whole lot better and things getting better? Subscribing to Locked On Buckeyes, because you guys don't want to miss a beat with new episodes dropping every Monday through Friday. So no matter if you check out the podcast via the audio version, the Odyssey app, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or even iHeartRadio, or if you go to youtube.com/LockedOnBuckeyes or WKYC.com or any of the other ways, you can double dip, triple dip, whatever you want to do to stay up to date with your Ohio State basketball and football teams right here on Locked On Buckeyes. Is there anything else left for Chris Holtman to do this off season? Because if there is, when will it get done? The off season, like I said previously, I don't know when it was. Maybe when I had Timmy Hall on from 97.1 The Fan, or who exactly it was that this thought came from. But in the day with the transfer portal, when players can move freely, one-time transfer, no sit out, no anything, or you could transfer once, be a grad transfer, and then transfer again and get immediate eligibility. A couple ways you could transfer twice. You could transfer twice and get immediate eligibility, no questions asked. It's just the way the cookie crumbles. Joey Brunk graduated not with his undergrad, but with his master's from Indiana University, transferred to Ohio State, immediate eligibility, reuniting with Chris Holtman. But as I look at the coaching staff, as I look at the players that are currently on the roster, as I look at or think about the future recruiting, what else is out there? Is there anything else left on Chris Holtman's to-do list for him to do right now? But to be honest with you, there's one thing, it could be two things that are on his to-do list. I've read a lot of articles. I have heard people talk. Me, myself, personally, you guys may have realized this about Jay, what I'm about to say here. I'm a person that if someone says they are going to put their name out there to potentially do something, but they're not decided concretely on what they're going to do, they're kind of 50-50 in the air or 60-40 in the air, 40 yes, 40 leaving, 60 coming back, or 35 leaving, 65 coming back. I am not a person that's going to say, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and go with what I think they're going to do. I don't like to speak for people, so I am a little passive in that area. I do believe that it's wise, it'd be wise for Dwayne Washington Jr. and E.J. Liddell to stay in school. I said that before, but at the end of the season, after the loss to Oral Roberts and Max A. Smith did declare for the NBA draft. That was a couple weeks ago. Just haven't said it here on the podcast. I do believe he'll be he has a chance. I'm not going to say he will be. He has a chance to be a decent basketball player in the National Basketball Association. Put on some muscle. He is quick enough. He has the IQ. He does have the vision. He can possibly be a decent NBA player, even though he is small in stature. But at the end of that game, I thought for sure Liddell was going to stay. Washington Jr. was going to stay. I didn't expect Jr. to put his name in the NBA draft. I know he had that run at the end of the season, Big Ten tournament, final games of the regular season, and then he played okay in the NCAA tournament. I didn't expect him to put his name in the draft. I didn't at all. I'm just going to be honest with you. I did not now. I do know it's just going through the process, going through the motions, just hearing what all these guys are saying. They tell you what to work on. You work on it. You get drafted the following season. I get it. I understand the process. But I did not think at all that would be the move for Junior Liddell either. For the Liddell skill set, good in college, really good in college, I don't know where he's going to be in the NBA. I have no idea. He's working on his mid-range and his three-point jump shot, but if you were to take him from where he is right now and put him into the National Basketball Association and be a rookie next season, do you think he could progress and be a guy that, well, one, makes the roster, and then two, do you think he's a guy that will be in the rotation? I don't know. My first thought is no, just because of his skill set, but crazy things have happened. Jay's been wrong before. These are just certain things that go through my head. When it comes to Chris Holtman, his to-do list, we all have them. When I wake up in the morning, I got to-do list. When you wake up in the morning, you have your routine, things that you have to check off in your mentally or in your head off your to-do list. You walk in the kitchen, wherever you live. You look at things. These things have to get done. Now, do they get done quickly? Does it take them a long time to get done? That's up to you and the way that you live your life, the way that you get things done. But you all have to-do lists. Think about with your kids, if you have kids, or at your job. Pretty sure most of us have jobs, or if you're in school, high school, middle school, or even college. Think about it. We have things we have to get done, no matter what. My mom had a rule when I got home from school. You got about an hour of free time, of play time. I'm going back a ways. You can hit the Super Nintendo. You can hit the Dreamcast. You can hit that PS2 or PS3. That was all we had. I know we had the block gray Game Boy as well, but you had about an hour of free time, relaxation. You could go outside and play the basketball, to play the football in the yard across the street in front of the church. You can do whatever you want to do, but you got about an hour. After that hour is up, you got to come back. is start your homework. And Chris Holtman, on his to-do list, the only thing I can think of right now that's on his to-do list is be prepared. Well, there's a couple things. Be prepared for Junior and Liddell to stay in the draft process. Not saying it's going to happen. Not saying it's going to happen at all. But you have to prepare yourself for that to happen. So, do you go to the transfer portal to dip in there and get a couple players to come onto the team? Probably. But I do think you run into what you had last year. This is why I don't think the transfer portal GM is a great way to build your roster every single year. You run into the same thing you had last year. The beginning of the season, offensively and defensively, if you look back at the beginning of that season, that was not the way that you thought it would have been, and you would have thought that team would probably struggle throughout the season. Why? They had so many transfers and guys are just getting their feet wet and trying to figure things out. Regular offseason or not, if you're bringing in new guys that are starters every single year, you're going to have some issues with your team. John Calipari at Kentucky, now different program. One's very prestigious, the other is not as prestigious as the other as far as basketball. One, the Blue Blood, Kentucky, Ohio State is not. But John Calipari, when he's went on this string of one and dones, when he started this, you can look at his teams in October, November, December. They're not the same teams in February and March going into the NC2A tournament. There are growing pains, but those are one and dones. You're probably going to have those guys longer than, well, you're going to have those guys quickly, then they're going to be gone. So this process, when you get the success of it, it's a whole lot easier for the guys that come after them to say, well, I trust Calipari. I see what he was done. We're going to have some growing pains early. And then you got to figure things out after a couple months or about a month and a half of the season. So be prepared for it. Go to the transfer portal. But also bolster the recruiting. Because I want to end with this. A good coach, an elite coach, is an elite recruiter. We have seen Chris Holtman be able to get some recruits and be able to get some guys in. I wonder how Malachi Branham will be thrust or thrown into the fire at Ohio State. Will he be a starter if Junior doesn't come back? I don't know. Will he be in the rotation if everything comes? If you have Junior and Liddell come back, I have no idea. But you gotta boost the recruiting. Because the last thing you need or you want in every offseason is for an Efton Reed commitment situation where on Twitter, Mama Bear says this. Oh, we got to push that commitment back. Mama Bear says the commitment is going to be at this time, and then the commitment comes that day. We're a little bit later, and it's to LSU and Will Wade. I believe it's LSU. And we'll leave it at that. I'm going to not dive into the Will Wade situation down at LSU. You want to have guys. You don't want to be waiting till the very last minute to get somebody to fill a spot that you need. Boost your recruiting so that if Junior and Liddell don't come back, you have guys on the roster to fill that spot. Or in the offseason, you're not just sitting on pins and needle hoping that somebody comes, because if they don't, you still have guys on your roster that'll play very well for you. Guys, let's step away very quickly one more time. When we come back, we talk about the game, well, tongue-tied again. We talk about when Ohio State and Oregon, the game that was canceled last year, when it will be played and when it was rescheduled. But first, check this out. There's a good chance you're a person like me that loves, and I mean loves, a good protein bar. You know the ones that when you look at the nutritional facts on the box or package before you open to see how everything fits, you look at it, you scan over it, I like what I see. And that protein bar that tastes like a candy bar as well. Well, guys, I have ended my search, and I thoroughly encourage you to consider ending yours as well, because Built Bars are great for the health-conscious guys. They also help you lose and maintain weight while indulging in a delicious treat. Bars are low-calorie, low-sugar, high protein, high fiber, and they're also great for the keto diet. And one interesting detail about Built Bars is they are covered in 100% chocolate. Go to BuiltBar.com. Use promo code LOCKED15, LOCKED15, and you will get 15% off your next order. Once again, go to BuiltBar.com and use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your next order at BuiltBar.com. And as we roll on here on Locked On Buckeyes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. I want to encourage everybody to check out the I cannot talk today, the Buckeye Beat, brought to you by EliteSportsBetting.com. It's a Friday show I host live on Periscope and EliteSportsBetting.com. If you follow me on Twitter, I will share that link and tweet that out, retweet the Periscope feed when that does go live. It's a live show about 20-25 minutes on a Friday night at 7 o'clock, talking about your Ohio State Buckeye and football and basketball teams. Fun time, enjoyable time. Let's hang out tonight via Periscope or EliteSportsBetting.com and talk about the Buckeye football team, mainly football tonight. Last year's game against Oregon got canceled due to the Rona, due to the way that people had responded to something that they had not heard of before. And a lot of Ohio State Buckeye fans are saying, when will this game get replayed? I wanted to go out there to Oregon. I wanted to go watch that game. I wanted to go see Ohio State play in that thing. And the game got canceled. Well, yesterday, it was announced around 1 o'clock in the afternoon that the Oregon game, Ohio State-Oregon, scheduled a home-and-home in 2032 and 2033. This is after last year's trip to Oregon was canceled. The one interesting thing about this was they were trying to get this rescheduled next year, the year after, but they couldn't find a date that fit well with either school before 2026. And then the idea came and it popped into the head of one of the decision makers. Why don't we just do a home and home instead of rescheduling one game? How about we do a home and home? Ohio State goes to Oregon, and then Oregon comes to Columbus. The 2032, 2033, those are the years that the schools will play. This detail is coming from an article written on 11warriors.com. I'll read it verbatim. Quote, the Buckeyes will still play Oregon and Columbus this year in their home opener, which is set for September 11th at noon. Assuming Ohio Stadium is back at full capacity for that game, Ohio State will still pay Oregon $3.5 million for this year's trip to Columbus, end quote. There is an idea or a thought that these non-conference games that Ohio State and Oregon, or Ohio State and Georgia, or Ohio State and Notre Dame, that are coming up very, very quickly. Oh, you didn't know? We'll talk about that in a couple seconds too. That these guys don't pay any money. And I'll repeat, every non-conference game, somebody's getting a check. Somebody's getting a check for every non-conference game. So this year you have Tulsa going to Ohio State. Tulsa's getting paid. You have Akron coming to Ohio State. Akron's getting paid. We hear about it all the time in college basketball, where you have these lower level, maybe D2 schools or low-end D1 schools that are playing up and playing more high-quality D1 schools. And, wow, I am all over the place today. And you're thinking, they're doing it for the money. Those big guys, they don't get paid. They don't get money for that. Yes, they do. Notre Dame took a trip down to Athens, Georgia, I think a couple years ago. It wasn't last year, I know for sure, but a couple years ago, the largest and most capacity, it was a sold-out stadium there in Athens, and I remember seeing the different variations of the lights that the stadium had, and they really did it up. I think it was like, 85 or some 80, 90,000 people there in Athens, Georgia at the game. Notre Dame got a check. But don't let people just come out here and say these big boys aren't getting paid for these non-conference games. Yes, they are. Ohio State has some more non-conference games coming up, or big non-conference games coming up in the future. Some opponents you'll love. Some opponents you're like, why? This year, Ohio State plays Oregon in 2022. Ohio State plays, now I'm going to list off the big-time Power 5 schools that Ohio State is playing very, very soon. 2022, Ohio State goes to South Bend, Indiana to play Notre Dame. 2022, Ohio State's home. 2023, Notre Dame takes a trip to Columbus. It's off. 2022, Ohio State is home. 2023, they go to Notre Dame. Here we go. I want to get things right now. 2024, Ohio State goes to Washington, the other side of the country. 2025, Ohio State plays Texas at home, Washington at home, UConn at home. I am amazed they got all three of those games to be home games for Ohio State. I know you schedule in advance, but just like this year, all three of the non-conference games are at home: Oregon, Tulsa, and Akron. That same, and then 2022, Notre Dame, Arkansas State, and Toledo. 2025, Texas, Washington, UConn, all coming to Columbus. 2026, Ohio State goes on the road to Austin, Texas, to play the Longhorns on September the 12th. 2027, Ohio State hosts Alabama. 2028, Ohio State goes down to Tuscaloosa. 2030, Ohio State goes down to Athens, Georgia. 2031, Ohio State hosts Georgia. And then on the road, playing Oregon, 2032. And then at home, hosting Oregon once again in 2033. I do not believe these games need to be scheduled so far in advance. I don't think that at all. But even though they are, you can look now. Alabama, still going to be a team that you want to beat. Georgia, same thing. Texas, same thing. Notre Dame, same thing. Washington, same thing. You get the big guys on the schedule. You put the X on the name because X marks the spot, because you know that is a game you want to win. Guys, this has been fun. Not sure what's going on with my voice today and with me just being tongue-tied all the time. But we'll do a whole lot better on Monday when we come back to resume this show, Locked on Buckeyes. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07. You can also send all of your emails to jstevens317 at gmail.com. This was a fun show today. We'll do a whole lot better and have a whole lot more fun on Monday as we resume the coverage and talking about your favorite football and basketball teams. Go Bucks!